Hey everybody, welcome to Awkward Teenage Years. Thank you guys so much. I'm Grant Bowen. I'm happy to be back as your host. You may notice I'm not in my normal living situation. I'm house sitting for someone right now. Rest assured, I'm still safe from COVID, so don't worry. If you're familiar with the show, thank you for watching again after a brief hiatus. June was fun. Uh, for those of you who are new, we are a true storytelling show. All the stories you're going to hear tonight, we have a whole lineup of guests telling true stories from their lives, from their middle school and high school years. Specifically, these are stories about first kisses, first loves, new schools, popular movies, and most of all, coming of age. And I think we're already here. I'm excited to get started. Our first storyteller tonight, she is a law professor originally from Texas. She's told stories at the Story Collider, Gather NYC, Caveat, the Magnet Theater, and most recently, the 24-Hour Storytelling Festival, which is what we were a part of as well. You can follow her on Twitter at Vicki Eastus, where she will remind you to register to vote, which is great advice because if you don't vote, this nightmare just isn't going to end. I try screaming, but no sound comes out. Please welcome Vicki Eastus.
Thank you, Grant. Yeah, register to vote. We'd like to go outside again sometime. So the doorbell rings, and as planned, my dad answers it. It's December of my sophomore year of high school, and this is my first date ever. It's not just my first date, it's a date with Scott. Scott is a senior, and I have been crushing on Scott for months. A couple months before, it was 2 weeks before homecoming, and Scott and I were chatting, and he asked me what my plans for homecoming were. And my heart was fluttering, and I was sweating, but I played it cool, and I said, oh, I don't really know yet. And Scott said, well, I'm taking Janet, but it'd be fun to see you there. Breaking my heart. But we stayed friends, and now he's invited me to this party. So I am more than ready, because the way I figure it, if I play my cards right, it's not just my first date ever. This is going to be my first kiss ever. I am ready. I go to the drugstore. I have bought 2 flavors of lip gloss, 2 types of breath mints and chewing gum. My purse is filled. I am totally ready. And I read 17 magazine, so I know what to do. I don't answer the door. Scott's supposed to chill and have to talk with one of my parents when he gets there. So I've carefully instructed my parents on what they are supposed to do. My mom is banished. She is in the bedroom because it is her fault that I don't have a social life. Now, I'll admit it, I was the youngest in my grade, so my social and physical maturity was a little lacking. Super nerdy, had a mouthful of braces, and was quite a bit bossy. But I blame my mom because I go to this really small high school, and my mom is an English teacher there. And she's not just an English teacher, she's that super intimidating, everybody's afraid of you English teacher. So nobody wants to come to my house on a Saturday night and have to chit chat with my mom. So she's banished. My dad is supposed to open the door, and I've told him, Dad, just be cool. And the way I figure it is he and Scott actually have a lot in common. My dad's a lawyer. Scott eventually wants to be a lawyer. My dad had been a theater major and had done summer musicals. And Scott always has a really, really good role in our annual high school spring musical. So they're going to get along. So I tell Dad, be cool. So the doorbell rings, my dad answers it. I'm upstairs pacing, looking at my watch, 3 minutes, 17-minute magazine says 3 minutes. I finally walk downstairs into the living room, and Scott and my dad are chatting, but Scott looks terrified. His eyes are huge. My dad seems fine. He gets up, shakes Scott's hand, walks us to the door, tells us to have a good time. We get into Scott's car, and Scott says, I don't think your dad likes me. Scott, you met for 2 minutes. What do you mean my dad doesn't like you? What happened? So Scott tells me that it starts out fine. Your dad asked me typical dad questions. How long have you been driving? Oh, you're a senior. What do you hope to do after high school? But then he asked me how old I am. And when I told him I was 18, your dad got up and pulled a book off the bookshelf and sat down and started reading to me. I was like, what do you mean, Scott? He said, your dad opened the Texas Penal Code and read me the statutory rape laws. I don't think your dad likes me. I mean, I tried to explain my dad's got a quirky sense of humor. Don't take it seriously. Really, Scott, that's not what he meant. The date never really hit its stride. I was home an hour before curfew. It was not good. But Scott and I, we kept on being friends. And in the spring, it's High School Musical. We were doing Guys and Dolls. Scott did not get one of the leads, but he was killing it as Harry the Horse. And I was on a crew backstage. It's a Friday night. Friday night rehearsals ran long. We got pizza and worked late into the evening. But I was late because I'd been at the orthodontist getting my braces off. I walk into rehearsal and Scott says hi, compliments me on my new smile, and says, hey, do you want to ride home after rehearsal? Sure. So after rehearsals, Scott takes me home, but about a block from my house, he pulls into the parking lot of a church. And I know what this means. So we park the car. Scott gives me my first ever kiss. We start making out. There are tongues involved. It's awesome. We make out for a while. It's getting late. And then Scott says, I really need to get you home. So we turn onto my street and there are cars lining both sides of my block. And my house is just lit up. And that's when I remember that my mom is actually throwing a party that night for all of the faculty. And she does this every year. It's really annoying. It's how I learned that my English teacher, when he's had too much to drink, commandeers the stereo and plays Gregorian chants. So I tried my best to never be home on those nights, but I'd forgotten about it. So we're laughing in the driveway and Scott gives me a goodnight kiss and it turns into another makeout session. And this time there's a little hand over the shirt action, which is awesome. The windows have fogged up. We finally come up for air. And when we do, we realize that every car on the block is gone, which means that every one of our teachers has walked by Scott's car to get to their cars. So on Monday, I go to school and English class, French class, math, history, every class I walk into, the teachers give me this smug smile. And that was my first ever walk of shame. Totally worth it. Thank you.
Oh man, too beautiful. Thank you, Vicki. Oh my gosh. What is it? Hold on, because I grew up in my hometown was very similar in this way. What is it about parking behind a church for that particular situation?
Yep. The North Haven Christian Church. Yep.
Oh, I'll tell you one thing I did not have to worry about is telling my parents to be cool whenever I brought a date over, because it was very clear they were like, we are not the ones in this equation that need to be cool. Oh man, thank you, Vicki. Where would you like to plug anything? Where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Vicki Eastus, and what I really do plug constantly is getting politically active, because really, really, what else can you do? So
great, awesome. Thank you so much, Vicki.
Sure.
All right, let's keep the ball rolling here. Our next storyteller, he is an active public speaker, storyteller, and community builder, and an upcoming screenwriter from Toronto. He's the host of the Finding Perspectives podcast, which focuses on in-depth life stories from very courageous and interesting people. He hopes to bring people together and inspire new conversations through storytelling. And I'm pretty sure this is a milestone for us. he's our first Canadian guest that we've had on this show. So give a big round of applause to Kapil Ghai.
Well, what a wonderful interview. Thank you. Wonderful intro. Thank you for that. All right, so here we go, awkward teen years. So I'm in grade 11. It's a Friday night. My friend Moses and I are chilling in some park and we have really like nothing to do. I get a call from my friend Anush and he asks me where we are and he says that he's gonna come pick us up. Now he arrives, but we still have nothing to do. So I have this bright idea. I say, why don't we go and buy a few cartons of eggs and drive around throwing them at random people? But that got boring pretty fast. Then Moses says to me, hey Kapil, do you remember in grade 9, we said we were going to egg Lior's house, but we never did it? Let's do it tonight. To give you some context, in grade 9, both Moses and I, we had a conversation about a mutual dislike that we had for this guy named Lior because of the way that he behaved around us. But that was 2 years prior, and I didn't really have anything against this guy anymore. So the logical thing to do was to say no. Instead, my answer was, fuck yeah, let's do it. So we pulled up to his house with 2 full cartons of eggs with our getaway driver Anush, ready to go. We threw the eggs everywhere, purposely hitting all the areas that were hard to wash off. Man, it was fun, and the adrenaline was it was quite amazing. But the next morning, I logged onto Facebook, and the first thing I see is Lior's Facebook status. It says, $100 to whoever can give me the names of the people who egged my house. So I got worried. What if he knows it's me? Like, what's he gonna do? But Monday came around, and we were in biology class, first period. Anush and I were standing together doing some lab work when someone asked Anush what he did over the weekend. Anush then goes on to say, on Friday, we were driving around in my car I kicked him right away. I needed to get him to stop talking. One of Lior's best friends was in our class and he heard everything Anush said. He pulls out his phone, texts somebody, puts his phone right back. I saw the look in his eyes. He knew it was us. It was over. Lior knew I did it. And just to give you some context about Lior and how he looked, he was a very muscular dude, and I was just a scrawny little boy, kind of like how I look right now, just a lot younger and no beard. Now, there was about 20 minutes left in class, and I didn't know what I was gonna do. This was both the longest and shortest 20 minutes of my entire life. After first period, everybody would go down to the cafeteria and we'd hang out until the second period. So if I didn't show up, he'd know I did it. But if I did show up, then I would have to face him. So I was in quite a predicament. I knew he was going to confront me. I didn't know what I'd say. I had come up with a great strategy. I knew he was mad, but I also knew he was a smart guy and he wouldn't hurt me on school property. So I stood in the cafeteria with all my friends, as I usually would, acting like things were normal, and from the corner of my eye, I see Lior aggressively running towards me. He comes up to me and grabs me by my shirt. He says to me, Kapil, where were you on Friday? I'm like, I was hanging out with Anush and Moses at the park. Why? Why do you ask? He says, I know you egged my house. Don't lie to me. I say, man, like, why the hell would I do that? He says to me, you did it, man. Just man up and tell me. Be honest. I said, bro, I didn't do it. Why would you think it's me? He went quiet and he let go of me. And then he said, then I said to him, bro, if I find out who did it, I'll be sure to tell you right away. He walked away. I was able to breathe for a minute, but I knew this wasn't over. He knew I did it. He just didn't have any solid proof. There was no way I was going to come out of this situation without getting my ass beat. It was impossible. So for the next 2 weeks, I avoided him. I figured out his class schedule, so I knew where he'd be at all times. If he was walking from one end of the school, I was on the other. Every day after school, I'd run home right away. But I was living in this fear. And when I'd wake up, my chest was heavy. My heart was pounding. I knew I couldn't hide forever. He would find me eventually. I didn't want to live with this fear anymore, though. But I also didn't want to catch a beating. So I went up to my friend Ramon, and I asked him what I should do. Now, Ramon was a very well-respected guy. Everyone in the grade respected him, and nobody would dare disrespect him. So I told Ramon what was happening. He says to me, I heard Lior wants your head on a stick. Come on, man. Seriously, like, what do I do, Ramon? He says, bro, just apologize. You'll be fine. I'm like, are you crazy? This guy just needs a reason to beat my ass, and he finally has one. I can't admit it. He says, okay, then keep living in fear. But trust me, man, you'll be fine. I didn't want to live with the fear anymore. So after a few days, I walked up to Lior. I told him what I did, and I apologized. It felt good to let it off my chest. He was disappointed, but he says to me the only way to make it right was to come to his house and apologize to his parents. I happily agreed and shook his hand. I was amazed. I learned the power of an apology. I egged this guy's house, and I got away with it without a single scratch on my body. But something didn't make sense. Something didn't feel right. So I went up to Ramon. I'm like, bro, I spoke to him, and he's cool with it. I just have to apologize, and his parents, then that's it. We're good. He says, I told you. I'm like, bro, how did you know? Ramon says, he asked me if you egged his house, and I said yes. I'm like, why the hell would you do that out of all the things you could have said? Ramon then went on to say, because I then told him that if he was to lay a single finger on you, then he would have to deal with me. And that's my story. Thank you, guys.
There we go. I don't know why this is not cooperating with me unmuting everybody, but wow, great story. You gotta love the real friend who will happily just throw you under the bus when he knows you're in trouble. But still, though, it's great that you were able to make peace with that and everything.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I wish I'd been one of the kids who could, egg someone's house. It always sounded like fun, but then
you don't think about what's gonna happen after. You kind of just do it in the moment, and you don't think about the repercussions.
Yeah, that's got to be a hell of a rush, though. Really?
Oh yeah, I still remember it till this day. It was a lot of fun.
Oh man! All right, Kapil, do you have anything you'd like to plug?
Yeah, so I started my own podcast earlier this year. It's called the Finding Perspective Podcast. It's on Spotify, iTunes, Google. Check it out. I have like hour to hour and a half in-depth conversations with people with some interesting life stories. Some people have been through like hell and back, and yeah, it's just it's a great way to learn about someone else's story. So check it out if you guys have some time.
Nice, fantastic. Thank you so much for coming on. We really, really appreciate it.
Thank you, and I'm honored to be the first Canadian guest.
Woo! Hopefully the first of many here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, all right. So now we come to the part of the show that we like to call our PSA section. Because as you can understand, with this pandemic still going on, there's a lot of organizations that need help right now in order to keep the doors open, especially here in New York City. So there were a couple that we specifically want to bring to your attention. First up, we have Frigid New York. They are an independent theater company in downtown Manhattan. They do the Frigid Festival every year, which is where our show began with our original 3 producers. We did that back in February, and we had just wrapped that up the week before everything locked down. They're struggling to do what they can. They are renovating their theater to incorporate some kind of social distancing when things reopen. And they could use all the support they can get. You can find out more about them at frigid.nyc. And you can also follow them at Frigid New York on all of their social media. If you would like to donate money to them, you can go to their website, frigid.nyc/donations, or you can become a member of their Patreon. I'm a member. My co-producers, Will and Anastasia, are members. They've got some great reward levels on there if you feel like you're able to give monthly, whether it's $5, $10, $20, so on. So go check that out. I would highly recommend it. We love Frigid here. Our next theater we'd like to plug is the Magnet Theater. They are an improv. They're an improv theater training facility here in New York. One of the only improv theaters in New York that offers classes in storytelling. And because of Frigid, I mean, if it's because of Frigid that this show came to be, it's because of Magnet that we became storytellers. They are still producing their shows on their own Twitch channel at twitch.tv/The Magnet Theater. You can follow them at Magnet Theater on all of their social media. And if you'd like to give money to them, you can buy a virtual ticket to one of the shows. Just go to magnettheater.com and click on the virtual shows banner. Again, we believe in both of these companies, and we really hope you have the time and resources to donate right now. And that brings us to our third storyteller. Our third storyteller believes that we all have a story to tell. She doesn't know how to swim. This is her confession. And she sleeps with crystals under her pillow. You can find her at Raw Storytelling on Instagram and Facebook. She was also part of the 24-hour storytelling festival. I got to watch her hour, and I personally am really excited that we've got her on tonight. Please welcome Enid Nolasco.
Hello, everyone. Yay. Okay. So I'm 20 years old and I've never been kissed. I know what you're thinking. This is teenage stories, but you know what? I had just turned 20, and let me repeat that, I had never been kissed. But it's about to change. But before I can talk about that, I need to go back in time. So let's go back in time to when I was a child. I moved around a lot. But the bulk of my elementary years were spent in Houston, Texas. And the thing with Houston, Texas is that my fellow classmates kind of bullied me a little. They assumed that I was Mexican and could not speak English. But little did they know that I had been fully bilingual, Spanish and English, since I was 3 years old. I'm actually Puerto Rican, and they didn't know anything about me at all. So I kind of I backed away, and I reclused to the safety of my teachers, and I spent my recesses with my teachers. I would help my teachers grade my fellow classmates' tests. That was how I spent my free time in school. So I knew that I was smarter than them, and it was like, and then at that point I kind of like really played on not knowing English because it was fun. So then when I was 11, my mom announced that we were moving to Puerto Rico. Although I consider myself Puerto Rican, I'd never ever lived there before. And I'm like, great, because at this time I can reinvent myself. I can be who I really am. So we moved to Puerto Rico, and I'm 11, and it doesn't go as I think it will go, because I'm the gringa. I'm the American that comes in in the middle of the school year. And I have no reference to the culture that these kids have been living through. I don't know the commercials that they reference. I don't know the music that they reference. I'm totally a fish out of water. So here we go again. So at this point, it's okay. It's okay. Reinventing myself is not going as I think it's gonna go. But I do meet these two awesome girls that end up being my friends. They are still to this day my friends. And one of them is like that sporty girl that is like one of the guys and all the guys want to be with. Super cute. The other girl is not so cute, but she's so nice and so willing to do anything, if you know what I mean. So they were definitely, you know, hormones were raging and all this talk. We're now in middle school and things are happening, and you know, they're doing things. But I'm still like, I basically dubbed myself Invisible Enid. I was kind of like the friend of these two girls that were doing things. I was in the back seat while they made out. I was the third wheel all the time. And then it just kind of snowballed like that. Like all the crushes that I had, they either made fun of me because I wasn't somebody that was up to their standards, or in one case, I actually had this one guy who was interested in me, one boy, I should say, that was interested in me, and his nickname was Elmo, and that's short for El Mojón, which in Spanish means the turd. So I was not interested in him. I still have high standards. So time goes by. At this point, I haven't had my first kiss. I haven't had like, not even playing house as a kid, not even like, nothing except food and drinks has touched these lips. High school rolls through, same story. I'm still like going on these like third wheel dates with my friends. And then I graduate high school. I graduate when I'm 16 because I'm such a nerd that I got skipped grades twice. So I graduate when I'm 16 and go into college. I'm like, okay, college is gonna be the thing. Still a teen, 16, right? So I meet this guy, his name is Alejandro, and I think he had a girlfriend, I'm not even really sure. But the most important part of this is that I was into him, but he said that he couldn't kiss me because I looked too innocent. So I'm like, oh, I don't know what to do at this point. Then I fall in love with a friend of mine, a guy friend of mine, and he's in love with another friend of mine. So he has no interest in me either. Still nothing is happening. And time keeps passing by and my teen years are over. I turned 20. I'm about to graduate college. You know, this is where we're at. I'm about to go into the professional career and still nothing has happened. So at this point, I'm pretty frustrated and I go to a bar with the said two friends that I still have from middle school. And I'm pretty frustrated. I decided I'm going to be wild and I'm going to start smoking. So I buy a pack of cigarettes and I've never bought one before. So of course I didn't think of buying a lighter. But luckily the bartender gives me a light and he overhears our plans that we're going to a bar afterwards to dance. And he shows up at said bar, right? And we started dancing and he's showing some interest. And before I know it, I'm being kissed. Ta-da! I'm being kissed, finally. And all I'm thinking during this time is, oh my God, this is happening. Oh my God, this is happening. And all I'm hearing in the background are my friends saying, oh my God, this is happening. Oh my God, this is happening. And I'm so flustered. I don't even know what his name is. All I know is that he had a Superman tattoo on his arm. So I call him Superman. And of course, he wants me to go home with him that night. But I'm thinking, I can't go from first kiss to losing my virginity in the same night. I can't. That's like, this is baby steps with me. It's taken me 20 years to get here. So I don't go home with him. But I have broken that seal. And after that, I kissed 3 more guys. The first guy is a gay guy, a gay friend of mine at a gay club. The second guy I met at like this party and he literally flipped me around and licked the back of my neck. And I walked away because that's disgusting. And the third guy was the guy that I ended up losing my virginity to, and it did not end well. A story for another day. And at this point, the 5th person I've kissed is actually a girl. And this girl ends up being my wife for 13 years. I was married to a woman for 13 years on the 5th kiss, right? And in 2018, we got divorced. So then I was like, you know, I'm gonna take a year off to grieve this relationship. And then I'm gonna get back into it. So then what happens is that a year later, a little thing called COVID-19 happens. And at this point, I'm back to square one. Now, it's been almost 2 years since I've kissed anybody, and I totally feel like my teenage self again. I'm back at my awkward teenage years, except now I have a little more wrinkles and I don't know, more gray hair. But basically, things have come full circle. Looks like I have not left those awkward years. Thank you.
Wow, that was a journey through time. Like that was totally like all the dots connected. That was incredible. man.
It's a short history. It's a very short history, but it's taken a long time to happen.
I think we all have those things that everyone has at least one thing that takes a minute to happen. You know,
Yeah, I'm back there again.
I'm sorry, as the guy licking you on the back of the neck in the club, immediately I just, like, I'm just like, like, no.
Yeah, I still to this day, this has to have been maybe like almost 20 years ago or over 15 years ago, and I still remember the feeling. So it was that bad.
That makes me as a straight man want to look at you and be like, I am so sorry.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Oh, Enid, where can people find you? Do you have anything you want to plug?
Oh, of course, yeah. So I host a true storytelling show just like this. I actually only host live shows. I have not done a virtual show because I prefer to promote people like you. But I do have a podcast, and the podcast is going strong. You can find it at rawstorytelling.org, Raw Storytelling on Instagram or Facebook, or search Raw Storytelling on your favorite podcast app.
Nice. Very nice. Yeah. All right.
Awesome.
Thank you. Let's give another round for Enid. All right. So our next storyteller, we're going to keep this going along. He recently hosted a masks on, socially distanced live show in NYC. It was the reopening storytelling show at QED in Queens, and he's hosting the show again this coming Sunday at 2 p.m., which means if you want to see live performance in New York again, you finally have to go to your friend's show in Astoria. Please welcome David Lawson.
Thank you so much, Grant. This is great to be on Awkward Teenage Years, mainly because the Sunday before there was no more live performance in New York City, I saw this show. I was seeing Awkward Teenage Years. It was the last live show I saw, at least until last Saturday back in the backyard of QED. Plug. We're doing it again on Sunday. All that being said, I was raised observantly Jewish. Not the black hat and the white shirts, but close. Every single Saturday and Sunday morning, I was at synagogue. Every Wednesday night, I was at synagogue. I kept kosher in my household, and I really believed. I believed in Moses on the Mount, Daniel in the lion's den, the week of creation. I truly believed in this stuff till I was around 16 years old. And then I started, not believing the stories anymore. I didn't believe that Moses took a 40-year walk. I didn't believe that those lions wouldn't eat Daniel. I didn't believe that some guy in the sky invented all of this in 6 days and then chilled out on the 7th. And I was 16, and this really came as a shock to me. And I got to thinking, was there any extremism in my religious upbringing that might be finally bubbling up to the surface? And the closest thing I could think of was the 2 summers I spent when I was 12 and 13 years old at a summer day camp run by the Chabad Lubavitchers, an ultra-Orthodox Hasidic sect of Judaism. If you were thinking about the black hats and the white shirts before, these are your folks, those folks. I went to a day camp for 2 years, 2 summers, and it was a lot of fun. Most days we would all get into a van and go to a local park or go to a neighborhood pool, and the men and the women were kept separate. And in the van, they would play these cassette tapes, these starring Tukey and Kiwi, 2 aliens from deep space who for some reason knew quite a bit about the 5 books of the Torah. My personal favorite Tukey and Kiwi song was Tukey Did a Mitzvah. They gave us comic books. No Spider-Man, no Batman, Mendy and the Golem. Comic book, a very Jewish comic book starring Mendy, this nice little Jewish boy, and his sidekick, Shalom the Golem, a giant creature made out of rocks that comes from Jewish folklore. The Golem The golem was put on Earth to defend the Jewish people. One day at camp, I asked one of my counselors, if the golem is real, where was he during the Holocaust? My camp counselor did not have an answer for me. It was another day. Again, I was 13 years old, which explains the question. One day I asked my counselor another question. I said, is it immoral in Judaism to masturbate? My camp counselor said, yes, David, yes. It is immoral to unnecessarily spill one's seed. I was 13 years old. I had heard every euphemism for masturbation, choking the chicken, playing 5-on-1. And now my camp counselor at this ultra-Orthodox Jewish camp gave me my all-time new favorite euphemism for masturbation, unnecessarily spilling one's seed. Now, the most extreme religious thing that happened at this camp, maybe the most religiously extreme thing that ever happened to me ever, happened the week after The Lost World came out, the sequel to Jurassic Park. I'm hanging out at camp and I'm raving about how great this movie was. In particular, I am saying to my friends at camp, the dinosaurs in this movie look so much like real dinosaurs did, because my dad took me to the Smithsonian and I saw real dinosaur bones from back then. And the dinosaurs in this movie looked so much like the real dinosaurs that really existed back then. And I'm highlighting the fact that I'm saying that dinosaurs really existed because as I'm saying this over and over at camp, counselor walks up to me and says, David, can I speak with you for a minute? Pulls me aside in the corner. He looks at me and says, David, were you talking about dinosaurs? And I said, yeah. And he says, okay, well, I'm going to need you to stop talking about dinosaurs. And I'm like, why? Camp counselor's like, well, David, the world is 5,700 years old. It says that in the Torah. Nothing can be millions of years old like dinosaurs. So from now on, when you're at this camp, you are not going to talk about dinosaurs, okay? I was horrified. I was a terrified little child, basically. This is absolutely unimaginable to me. Like completely, if you want to talk about outside the box thinking, like dinosaurs don't exist, like, and honestly, why it was so mind-blowing, I was like, no dinosaurs, no Flintstones, no Jurassic Park, no Barney, no 1993 Super Mario Brothers movie. Someone out there got that deep cut. Someone else saw that piece of crap on opening weekend. Today, I still proudly consider myself Jewish. I have done my ancestral research. I have found immigration documents for my grandparents, my great-grandparents coming to the United States. And on a lot of those documents, their race is labeled as Hebrew. And that's part of my story. That's part of who I am. And it's not just that ethnic side of Judaism. On Rosh Hashanah, Hanukkah, Passover, I still eat the food, say the brachot, say the blessings. I still do all of those things. I get a lot of power out of those stories and those rituals that my ancestors did and the ancestors before them and so on and so on and so on in a never-ending mirror image. So I really still have this connection to Judaism, but folks, I, like most Jews, do believe that dinosaurs existed. Thanks so much, folks. Thanks.
Wow. That's a new one. I've not been introduced to that aspect of Judaism before.
I have met some evangelical Christians who have the same story.
Oh, I'm working on, I have a one-person show that's about my upbringing in a Southern megachurch.
Oof.
Yeah. But we didn't have the cool comics. We just had VeggieTales. So,
right.
VeggieTales and Bible Man, if anyone knows what that is.
Now that one I gotta Google.
Oh, you have to find Bible Man footage. You would like. Well, David, I know you've got the show coming up on Sunday. You got anything else you want to plug? Is there anything you want to tell people where to find you?
Oh, just that we're going to be doing the Reopen Storytelling show for every Sunday at 2 o'clock at QED indefinitely. And if you're coming in from Westchester or from Jersey, I know Will's doing tech tonight, you know, just parking it on the streets of Astoria, Queens. Come on out. It was such a great time doing it for the first time last week. Totally safe, totally social distance, and just such a blast. And really good to do this live. Not that I don't love Brady Bunch in here on Zoom, but yeah, we're going to be doing it every Sunday, 2 o'clock, QEDAstoria.com. Check it out. We'd love to see you there, folks.
Fantastic. I'd love to pick your brain about that because I'm interested to see what QED is doing. So absolutely. Well, thank you so much. One more round for David. All right. How are you? How you doing, bud? Hold on. We're running. We've got plenty of time here for me to introduce a co-host. Hey, buddy. This is the reason I'm in a new place tonight. This is Rerun. I'm looking after him and his brother because of on behalf of his dads who are fans of the show, which actually brings me into the next part, which is how you can find out more about Awkward Teenage Years. If you want to find out more about our show, all you have to do is just follow Awkward Teenage Years on Facebook and Instagram. That's when we're plugging who our guests are going to be, when our next shows are, and stuff like that. And also, we are actively looking for storytellers to have on the show. So if you have a story about your middle school and high school years that you would like to come on and share, email us a 2 or 3 sentence pitch at awkwardteenagers@gmail.com. Let us know where we can find you. As you've seen tonight, we've had people from New York, New Jersey, Florida, Toronto. Like, it doesn't matter where you are. We'd love to have you on our live stream. And best of all, you can find videos of the shows we've already done on YouTube. You just search for Awkward Teenage Years, find our channel. We have our full archive on there of all of our past shows. And while you're here on Twitch, click that follow button. Give us a follow so that you'll be updated each time we go live. And when you go to our YouTube channel, click subscribe and you'll know when another video has been uploaded. All right, and that brings us to our final storyteller of the night. She has performed stand-up and comedic storytelling across the US and the UK. She got a call back for a pass at the Broadway Comedy Club the first time she did stand-up, and she won the storytelling competition One Up Story the first time she told a story. So she's got street cred. On top of that, she's also the first South Asian to open a whiskey company. She's the founder and owner of Whiskey Stories LLC. So please give it up for Rachna Hukmani.
Hi guys, it's really good to be here. I'm really, really excited. All right, so picture this, I'm 14. I'm Indian, but I'm growing up on a Greek island, Cyprus. And back then, in our area where we lived, our family, there were no other non-Greek people. There were no Indians, there were no brown people. So there we were living, and there were no other non-Greek people in my entire school. I was the only Indian brown person in my entire school. And you know, the thing about that was, it was to the extreme where we're 5 kids in my family, and my dad wore a turban, my mom wore her sari. She's a beautiful traditional Indian woman with a low bun in her hair. And when we would walk on the street, just crossing the street, people would actually pull their cars over on the side of the road and watch us cross the street. Kind of like if you were like driving in the mountains around some woods and there's a family of bears that's crossing the street, you know, like mama bear with the cubs, kind of like that. I would sometimes pretend like we were bears because this stuff is a lot cuter if you're just a bear. I gotta tell you, I would have looked a lot cuter if I was a little baby bear girl. Because back in those days, my mom insisted I had long hair right up to my waist. She would insist that I would gel it back and braid it really tight. I had these big purple glasses that covered half my face. And, you know, they said it looked cute. It didn't. No. And school. The school had a mandatory uniform, okay? The uniform was so that you couldn't tell at all that the women who went to school had curves. So I wore this really long A-line skirt with a huge pleat in the middle that didn't fit any body type. Knee-length white socks and this huge puffy white shirt that was so big that you couldn't tell if the girl had had puberty or not, you know. And it was meant to be less distracting, if you will. I wore that shirt, that uniform, with the gelled hair and the big glasses. The other girls didn't dress like that. They wore mini skirts. They wore ankle-length socks, and they wore tight-fitted, tailored button shirts. You know the kind where the button here is always threatening to pop open? Those kind of shirts. And Cyprus back then had a really great economy. Everybody was super well off. So all the girls, they got their hair done at the salon. We were 14, and they had beautiful highlight styled hair. And so every day I would go to school, and the girls would look at me like, she still looks like this. And I would look at them and say, I don't look like that. I still look like this, you know? And I would sit there day after day. Nobody really talked to me. Sometimes the boys, they would see me and they would like smile and do a little Indian dance move, you know? And I would think that's a good day. But didn't have very high standards back then. So I would think, yeah, somebody smiled at me. That's a good day, you know? It would keep me going for like a week or two, you know, that was good. Then one fine day, halfway through school year, there was a transfer. And this new boy walked into school. His name was Andreas. And Andreas was the hottest, coolest, sexiest, Greek god type guy my 14-year-old sheltered eyes had ever seen. And he walked in, you know, everything slowed down, slow motion. He had this big curly black hair. I loved it. He had these very striking eyes. And he was one of the few people who wore this our puffy asexual shirt, but I knew he had a hot body under there. You know, and this is a good place to tell you that not only did my mom make me wear that shirt, she made me wear an undershirt. She made all my two sisters and I wear this undershirt or clothes just in case there was a hint of sign that we had breasts. So that day I rebelled and I didn't wear my undershirt, you know, and I was like, this is perfect. He's gonna notice me. He didn't notice me because I looked like little baby brown bear girl, you know, with the hair and all that. And all the girls loved him and they would sit around him at recess, listening to him talk. And I didn't speak Greek back then. So he would go on. And I was so sure that he was talking about something poetic and like really philosophical. I speak Greek now, and he was basically swearing like a sailor and complaining about his mom. But at that time I was like, oh my God, this is like a Greek god. Then one day we're sitting there, you know, the teacher hasn't come in yet, and I feel these eyes on me, okay? And so I look over and he's staring at me. And I was like, oh shit, I wore my undershirt today. I shouldn't have, you know, damn it. And he's just staring at me. And so then he gets up and he starts walking toward me. And I think, oh my God, I'm gonna die. And he's walking toward me and he's standing in front of me with his hands in his pockets, his pants. And he pulls out his right hand and he reaches out to my face. And the whole world has slowed down now. And he touches my face and he does this. He rubs my face. He rubs my face. And he goes like this. And he goes, you're not dirty. In school, they said the Indians, they're dirty. But you're not dirty. That's the day I found out that they'd started this rumor in the entire school that Indians were dark because we only took a bath once a year. So he was checking to see if there was dirt on my face. And I was just sitting there, and he goes, you smell like flowers. Yeah. And he looks around and goes, oh, you smell like flowers. Yeah, she smells like flowers. And he walks away. And I'm just sitting there with my hand on my face where he touched me. Because I had low standards back then. So I was like, oh my God, he touched me. It did not even occur to me in my twisted world that I lived in of what he'd said. All I could think about was, he touched me. Maybe I shouldn't bathe for a week, Like, just sit there with us. So I'm just sitting there thinking, oh my God, my life's going to change forever now. What's going to happen? I'm going to be his girlfriend and everyone's going to know I smell like flowers. He never spoke to me again. And, that rumor did die down. But the good thing is I have better standards now. And I take showers like 2-3 times a day now. So it's a win-win, guys. Thank you.
All right.
Oh, that is, wow. That is, oh, wow. That's, I don't even know what to say to just, wow. Yeah. Right. Thank you so much, Rachna. Wow. That's, I mean, who says that? Who says that to somebody? I think that's what I'm just
blown away
by.
I know.
Yeah, I think there was a period where I feel like the puffy asexual shirt was spoke for a lot of boys at that age. Oh man. Well, Rachna, do you have anything? So tell us more about Whiskey Stories.
Sure. It's my immersive multi-sensory whiskey company. So what I do is we have a venue in Brooklyn. It's designed like a hidden speakeasy / vintage dollhouse. Before COVID, we were doing live events there. So what I do is I pair whiskeys with dinner pairings, with comedy pairings. So there's improv, storytelling, and we also have a version called Whiskey in the Dark. So there's a blindfolded piece where we take sight away, so it's a multi-sensory. And it's like a 90-minute experience. I take them through it because I'm a whiskey expert. And I also have my own whiskey-based cologne line. So we do like a pairing with that, And so now with COVID, we've switched to doing it virtually. So I send kits to people's homes. It's just like Zoom, we do it that way. So we do ticketed events, we do private, we do corporate events, yeah.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm definitely, if you've got a mailing list, I'll definitely
absolutely
check that out. Absolutely. Where can people find you on social media? Are you doing any other shows coming up or?
Yes. My company is Whiskey Stories. So for that, you can go there. You can keep up with us there, and there's an ability to join the mailing list there. Otherwise, my personal Instagram page, Rachna Hukmani. That's where you can find me for shows and more personal things like storytelling, stand-up, all of that, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well,
thank you.
Please. For Rachna.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. And that brings us to the end of another Awkward Teenage Years. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Please tell your friend about us. Please give us a follow. Check us out when you can. Check it on social media. We'll let you guys know when the next show is coming up, when hopefully, we had a pretty killer lineup of guests tonight. So hopefully the next show is going to be just as killer as the people we've had on tonight. So everyone, stay home, stay safe. Please keep wearing the mask and washing your hands. Anyway, have a good night, everybody. Thank you so much.